We're going to talk about adding and subtracting those rational expressions. We worked last week on, factoring everything and seeing what would cancel out and how not to kill a kitten, right? And so we're going to add and subtract today. So the first thing you have to do, number one, is factor everything. That's not going to go away. So factor everything. And since we're dealing with rational expressions, that means we have something that looks like a fraction. So if the denominators are the same, we'll treat it like a fraction. If your denominators are the same, you just add or subtract the numerators and place it over the common denominator. So if the denominators are the same, add or subtract the numerators and place it over the common denominator. If the denominators are not the same, we're going to have to rewrite as equivalent fractions. And when we rewrite as equivalent fractions, then they'll have the same denominator. All right, so one thing I want you to remember is that there are invisible parentheses around each numerator. And denominator. I'll show you what that means in just a minute. So there'll be invisible parentheses around each of those things. That'll help us keep things in order. And then you'll always reduce or simplify. So reduce as necessary. So we're going to take out those terms that are common, top and bottom. So far, so good? Now, to avoid extra steps, I want you to find the lowest common denominator. So the LCD, right? I don't want to go multiplying by some big O numbers that are going to cause me trouble in the end. So I'm going to try and find the lowest one first. And the way that you do that is to take the product. What is the product? Multiplying, right? You'll take the product of the highest power of each factor that appears in the denominator of either polynomial. That's going to be the most effective way to do it, is to multiply the highest power of each factor. So if we apply it, open up to the next page. All right, let's look at the first problem. It says 9 over x plus 1 minus 2x over x plus 1. So what I'm saying is that each of these numerators has a set of parentheses around it, and each of the denominators has a set of parentheses around it. And so as I'm looking, what kind of problem is it? Subtraction. Does it have a common denominator? Yes. So all you have to do is take that common denominator of x plus 1. That goes on the bottom. And then you combine the numerators. So this says 9 minus 2x. Can you combine anything on the numerator? Will anything combine? Nope, not like terms. And does anything cancel out? So this is simplified. So this is a common denominator. Where is it undefined? At positive 1? At negative 1, because negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So this is undefined where x is equal to negative 1. Here we go. Let's look at the next one. It says 12 over 5x minus 7 over 6x. Common denominator? No. What could you do to each of those denominators to make them common? What if I multiplied together the 5 and the 6? What would you get? 30. And do they each have an x in them? Yes, so what can I multiply this first denominator by to get a common denominator? 6. So if I multiply the denominator by 6, then I have to make sure I multiply the numerator by 6. Does that look familiar? It's going all the way back to fractions. What about over here? So if I take 6 times 5x, what do I get? 30x. How do I turn my 6x into a 30x? Times 5. So if I multiply the denominator by 5, I multiply the numerator by 5. And let's rewrite. So 6 times 12 is 72. And then 6 times 5x is 30x. Minus. Let's do the second one. 7 times 5 is over 6 times 5, 6x times 5, which is 30x. Now do I have a common denominator? Okay. So that means I can combine the numerators. So the numerator says 72 minus 35, and I put that over the common denominator of 30x. So now what can I combine anything? The numerator will combine. What is 72 minus 35? 72 minus 35 is 37 over 30x. This is simplified. Where is it undefined? It's undefined where x equals 0. Because it's being multiplied, it's just going to be a 0. Questions on that one? Okay, 8 over 3x squared plus 5 over 4x. Are my denominators alike? No. So what could I change them to? A 12? What about my x? What is my x going to have to be? A squared. Because I already have an x squared, that means they're both going to have to be at least an x squared. Okay, so on this side, what can I multiply my denominator by to get a 12x squared? Do I need to multiply by the x? Because I already have the x squared, I'm going to multiply by 4 on the bottom and 4 on the top. What about over here? a 3x. Why does it have to be a 3x on this side? So it'll be x squared in the bottom. Okay, so let's multiply. 4 times 8 is 32 over 4 times 3x squared. Questions right there? And then it's being added. So 5 times 3x is 15x. And then 4x times 3x is 12x squared. Now do I have a common denominator? So we combine them and put them over the same denominator. So you have 32 plus 15x over 12x squared. Okay, look at the numerator. Is it fully factored? Is there anything you can take out? Are they both divisible by a 3 or a 5 or a 15? Do you know how to check on your calculator? Go to math, go over to num, go down to number 9. Let's check and see if it has a GCD, because if I can take something out, I need to. So go to math, go over to num, go down to GCD and type in 32, 15. Do they have a GCD? You just got a 1, so they don't have a GCD. They don't have anything else you can take out other than a 1. So this is simplified. Where is it undefined? Where x equals 0. All right, it says 3 over x plus 4 minus 1 over x plus 6. So common denominator? No. How am I going to make those look alike? Here's where those last few steps, it says to avoid extra steps and find the lowest common denominator, that stuff we wrote at the very end. I see this is an x plus 4 and this is an x plus 6. The only thing that you can do that's easy to make these common is to take each denominator and multiply it on the other side. This is what I mean. If this side is 3 over x plus 4 and this side is 1 over x plus 6, then I'm going to come over here and multiply this by x plus 6, the other denominator. And I'm going to come on this side and multiply this side by x plus 4. That will force it to make a common denominator. You understand where I got the numbers and kind of what it did there? So then when I'm multiplying, I just have to be very careful. I'm going to take 3 times x plus 6, so I've got to distribute that. So when I distribute 3 times x plus 6, what do I get? 3x plus 18. Over, I'm going to leave it as factored. X plus 6 times x plus 4. Because in the end, I may ask you to factor anyway, so why not just leave it? Did you follow what I did? And then let's do, it's minus, now I have 1 times x plus 4. So distribute that through. So 1 times x is x, and 1 times 4 is 4. And that's going to go over the same denominator, x plus 6 times x plus 4. Oh, not enough room. All right, so now do I have a common denominator? So I'm going to combine the numerator. So you have 3x plus 18 minus x plus 4, and that goes over x plus 6 times x plus 4. That's the common denominator now. Now, can I combine anything on the top? I have a 3x minus an x. Do you see it? 3x minus an x is 2x. And then I have 18 minus 4. Positive or negative? Positive 14, right? And that's still over x plus 6 times x plus 4. Now, in the top, can I factor anything out? I could take out a 2. Let's see if that helps. Can I take out an x? No. So I've got a 2 on the outside. Now I'd have x plus 7, and that goes over x plus 6 times x plus 4. Will anything reduce? No. Even though I went ahead and factored out that 2, trying to get something that would match, it doesn't. So either one of these is going to be sufficient to say it's simplified. Either one will be fine. Now, where is it undefined? Where x is equal to -6 and -4. That makes it defined, undefined. All right, so look at the next one. 9 over x minus 3 plus 2x over x plus 1. Common denominator? Nope. So I need to make one. On the left side, what are you going to multiply by? X plus 1, because that's the denominator on the other side. And I'm going to make sure and do that top and bottom. And then on the right side, I'm going to multiply by x minus 3, top and bottom. I want you to go ahead and take care of that, and let's see if we can get to the same answer. So I'm going to pause. So when you distribute, did you get 9x plus 9 over x plus 1 times x minus 3? And then I'm going to add to that 2x squared minus 6x over x plus 1 times x minus 3. Were you able to get that far? Perfect. Now let's combine the numerators. Let's combine the numerators. So I know, and I'm going to write it all on one line so we can see it. We have 9x plus 9 plus 2x squared minus 6x. Those are my two numerators. I'm going to put that over the common denominator of x plus 1 times x minus 3. So what can you combine? Good. So when you take 9x minus 6x, what do you get? 3x. And then you have a plus, and so these are gone, right? So then you have plus 9 plus 2x squared. And it's over that horrible denominator of x plus 1 over x minus 3. Are you able to already tell me undefined? What are your undefined values? So where x is a -1 and a +3. So I can go ahead and get that out of the way. Now, are you in standard form in the numerator? So switch that around, and you'll have 2x squared plus 3x plus 9 over that denominator. And so what should you do to the top? Factor it. So I want to see if I can get something to cancel out. So I'm going to go ahead and factor that numerator. So stick that in the box. I'm going to pause for a moment. All right, so did you try and factor that numerator? What'd you find? It no worky. It no worky, right? Like you cannot take 2 times 9 and get 18 and 2 factors of 18 that you can add and get 3. You can subtract them, but this clearly is an addition sign on the end, so I'm adding both of them. So I would have to add and get 18. And, add and get 3. And I can't do that. So this is simplified. I did that on purpose because I want you to make sure you're very careful in your factoring. I already know my undefined, so this one's done. All right, on the last one, it says x plus 3 over x plus x plus 2. So tell me, what is the x sitting on top of? Yep. So if I were to rewrite this, this would be x plus 3 over x plus x over 1 plus 2 over 1. I need to make sure that I'm seeing that. Because when I start making a common denominator, I've got to apply it to all 3 terms. What will my common denominator